Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Warhammer video. Today, something a little different. We're going to be taking a look at the new secret level episode, And They Shall Know No Fear, that is out now on Amazon Prime. Firstly, just a quick little apology before we get into today's video. I know I've been lacking on the content lately. I actually intended to make this video last week, but had some difficulties recording and ended up having the file corrupted. But it ended up working out because I was able to catch a few more details and get a few more screenshots for this video. I would like to say first and foremost that this is all owned by Games Workshop and Amazon, the secret level and Warhammer 40k and all that stuff. The screenshots I will be showing you today are what are available right now on the Warhammer YouTube channel and the Amazon Plus YouTube channel. But what I'm going to be doing for you today is, hopefully most of you, if not all of you, have seen the episode, or in the very least this fight scene between the Blade Guard veterans Titus and the Cultists. I've watched this fight scene, gosh, I don't know, 20, 30 times now at this point. It's pretty glorious. This is some of the best 3 minutes in Warhammer of all time. But there's a lot of breakdowns out there for you of the episode and how the story goes and everything. And what I'm going to be doing for you today is something just a little bit different. I'm going to be going through the combat move by move of Sergeant Metaurus here, because in the fight scene he is just moving so quick, and each move is a killing blow, and everything is so precise, and there's a lot of blink and you miss it kind of moments. And I even missed a few things on my first go around in this. So what I'm going to be doing for you today is, shot by shot, we're going to be breaking down every move that Metaurus makes in this fight scene, and every cultist that he kills. So let's get right into this. So Blade Guard veteran Sergeant Metaurus and Blade Guard veteran brothers Icaron and Levantis load up into their drop pod with Second Company Lieutenant Titus. Together they drop down in the drop pod to the planet below and emerge to survey the terrain around them. Sergeant Metaurus looks up as his helmet display reads, "Orbital Vox Link Connection Lost. Geolocation Unavailable," meaning the squad is cut off with no means of communication. But such was common of the missions that the veterans were sent on. Undeterred, Sergeant Metaurus marches forward. Titus and the other squad members follow suit. The drop pod landing had disturbed the local Chaos Cultists. They quickly grabbed their weapons and mounted up on their vehicles, racing off to meet this sudden foe in their midst. Finally, the cultists thought they would get some action defending this barren wasteland. The Space Marines march on through a narrow canyon. Metaurus is in front, Titus is behind, dragging their mysterious box with them. Up ahead, Metaurus' helm display picks up some points in the terrain ahead. The machine spirit in his helmet scanning for threats. Then, the display picks out the first of the cultists rushing out to meet them. A massive wave of motorcyclists riding cultists and foot soldiers rush at the Space Marines. A storm of autogun fire erupts from the cultist line, spraying bullets wildly downrange at the Space Marines. The first group of cultists are mounted up on their motorcycles and charge full throttle at their foe The Space Marines simply stand there, bullets pinging harmlessly off their broad shields and shoulder pauldrons. They were the wall the storm would break upon. In unison, the Space Marines raised their right arms, guns held in their fists, and opened fire. 3 heavy bolt pistols barked as they let loose their rounds, and Sergeant Metaurus' plasma pistol whined loudly before it discharged. 4 shots, and 4 of the cultists on their motorcycles fell back, their bodies blown in half, arms still gripping the throttles as they were shorn off by the force of the round striking them. 4 more shots, and 4 more motorcycles go down. Only 2 of the cultist motorcycles managed to reach their lines, realizing too late that the Emperor has sent his judgment. Sergeant Metaurus brings his shield front, and the cultist slams into it, but Metaurus and his shield were like a massive slab of plasticrete. It slammed into him, flipping over the top, and landing in a broken heap behind him. The second cultist on the bike managed to slide around the side at the last moment, then skidded out, his bike flying out from underneath him, dazed, landing behind the squad. Then the wave of foot soldiers charged at them, charging over the bodies of their fallen brothers on the motorcycles. The blade guards set their shields to the left and slammed them into the ground, leaving more room for the melee to come. The cultists reach the Space Marines and begin to die. In unison, the Space Marines wind up their weapons and strike. Sergeant Metaurus stabs his double-bladed axe out in front of him. He hooks the neck of the first cultist that comes at him and yanks that cultist to him. And when he does, his left hand reaches out and smacks the top of the left part of the blade. When he smacks the blade, the right side comes up, popping the cultist's head off, sending the head and the body upwards. As the second cultist rushes at him, he swipes the blade in a horizontal left swing, swiping the head off the second cultist. It's a little hard to see in this shot, but a third cultist down on the left, you can see his horned helmet there, rushes at Metaurus. Metaurus brings his axe over to his left side, and the cultist slams into Metaurus' right arm. He lifts his right arm, throwing the cultist up into the air. While still in the air, Metaurus grabs his axe in a two-handed reverse grip and swipes it right, completely bisecting the cultist. Holding the axe reverse grip in his right hand, he then smacks the top of the blade with his left fist, spinning it back around to foregrip. The cultist who had spun out behind on the bike earlier races up behind Metaurus. He spears the cultist with the pommel of his axe, impaling him in place as the bike races off. The cultist still impaled, Metaurus takes a heartbeat to check his squad is still in line with him. He drops the corpse of the cultist off his axe and marches forward into the next wave of cultists. Now notice here he's not rushing, running, bracing, anything. He is calm. He is simply marching into these cultists because this is just what he does. A cultist approaches on his left, and he winds up a left-handed back fist. Then he slams it into the cultist, battering him aside and breaking every bone in his torso. Blood drips from his fist. Another occultist approaches from his right. He winds up the axe in his right hand, swings it up and over, and brings it down in a vertical strike, cutting the cultist in half from head to groin. Another cultist is right behind that one. Metaurus reaches out with his left hand, grabbing the cultist by the head. He hauls the cultist over to his left and squeezes his massive armored fist, turning the heretic's skull into pulp and letting go of what is left of him. Another cultist approached from the left, and he winds up his right arm. He swipes the axe in a horizontal left swing, cutting the cultist in half at the gut. Two more cultists rush for him from his right side as he winds up his next strike. He lashes out with his axe blade, decapitating the lead cultist in a right horizontal swing. Then he brings his axe up and swipes it down, slicing through the head and torso of the following cultist. Another cultist rushes at him through the haze. He strikes out with his right arm, not hacking the cultist, but punching him. The strike lands in the cultist's torso and launches him back into the dust, his heretical mask flying off. Another cultist rushes from the left. He reaches out with his left hand, grabbing the cultist by the head. He hauls him up into the air and slams him into the ground with such force that he flattens his skull. Another cultist attacks. Metaurus twists to the left, dodging the attack. The cultist stumbles past off balance, and this is when the blade guard beside Metaurus relieves the heretic of his head. Two more cultists rush Metaurus, and he swings his axe back around in a right horizontal swing, aiming to cut them both down. The first one actually manages to duck under Metaurus' swing, but the second is not so lucky and loses his head. Metaurus follows up with a thunderous left-handed gut punch into the first cultist, sending him flying back with his mask popping off in comical fashion. Another cultist comes at him from the left. He swings the axe blade across in a left horizontal swipe and cuts through the cultist through his clavicle and out the rib cage on the other side. As that cultist falls, two more rush in, and Metaurus winds up his next strike. He spins to his right, swinging the axe up, then down vertically, cutting a cultist in half. In the same spinning motion, he off-steps the next cultist's attack, then punches out with his left hand straight down into the cultist's head, smashing him to the ground. Metaurus turns forward as the last two cultists charge at him. He reaches out with his left hand, grabbing the first cultist by the throat and hauling him high into the air on his left. He thrusts out the blunt top of his axe to the second cultist's chest, stopping him in his tracks. The cultist in his grip pulls up his auto pistol and fires at point-blank range into Metaurus' helmet. The round pings harmlessly off the armor, and Metaurus looks at the cultist. Then brings the cultist in close, slamming his face against his helmet and destroying his skull. He drops the corpse while the final cultist still crazily reaches for Metaurus over the top of his axe. A quick right and a quick left slash frees the blade from the cultist's grip. Then a final right slash removes his head. A small lull falls over the battlefield. Metaurus wipes heretic blood from his visor, and the Space Marines shake the gore free from their weapons. A sharp whine can be heard from up ahead as the heretic's tank spools up its Gatling cannon to fire. Realizing the danger, Metaurus rushes forward, scooping up a large piece of metal off the ground, and braces as high-caliber rounds start flying down the canyon at the squad. Rounds spark and explode against the metal shield. And Metaurus' heels dig into the ground slightly from the sheer weight of the incoming fire. The other blade guard take cover as well. Faced with an impasse, Metaurus considers his next move. They can't advance openly into the teeth of gunfire, and they had no heavy weapons with them to deal with the tank. It is then that Lieutenant Titus surges forward past the squad, sprinting so fast he's like a blur. Metaurus looks behind to check on their mysterious box, and is clearly concerned that Titus seemed to have let go of his duty. But this is what makes Titus so unique among the Ultramarines, his ability to be flexible on the battlefield. Realizing the cultist's fire was concentrated on his brothers, he charges straight down the canyon towards the heretic tank. A four-wheeled buggy hiding in reserve behind the tank suddenly appears and charges at Titus, intent on running him over and crushing him. But when Titus collides with the buggy, it disintegrates, along with its occupants. He isn't stalled in the slightest, and uses his momentum to leap across the final gap to the tank, landing on the turret right in front of the stunned tank commander. The heretic pulls out his sidearm and looses off a few shots at Titus, but they bounce off. Titus, holding his chainsword reverse grip in his left hand, casually brings it across, letting the roaring teeth chew into the cultist's neck and ripping his head free. With his right hand, Titus readies a frag grenade and drops it into the tank's open hatch. He leaps off the tank as the grenade goes off, sending a fiery explosion out of the open hatch. He sticks his chainsword into the ground and slaps a fresh magazine into his heavy bolt pistol. The blade guard catch up to Titus, and one of them readies an explosive on the tank. Metaurus walks up beside Titus, dragging the box by its heavy chains. He looks to Titus and drops the chain into his hand, wordlessly reminding Titus it was his duty. The squad then advances on with their mission into the unknown, as the tank explodes behind them, shrouding the Space Marines in dust. Okay, and that was a look at the breakdown of the combat between Sergeant Metaurus and the Chaos Cultists. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me on this one. I really enjoyed this episode of Secret Level. I also just enjoyed this Warhammer animation and story in general. It's pretty fantastic. If you haven't seen it yet, I highly encourage you to find out a way to go watch it. Head over to Amazon Prime and subscribe and watch it there officially, of course, if you're able to. But yeah, just kind of some final thoughts on this. Love the episode, love the brutality, loved how the Space Marines feel when they're fighting. And at the end of this, counting the biker that gets slammed into the shield and flips over the top of him, he kills 20 cultists in this combat. 20. If I missed something, if I missed a move, if I missed a kill, if I spotted something that wasn't quite correct, please let me know. Did you guys notice anything else? What did you think of this episode? I mean, again, I thought it was pretty awesome. And also, let me know if you like this content, if you want to see more of it. I intend to cover Warhammer 40k in general as a whole. I know normally I do Tacticus, but I'm also interested in doing other content for the Warhammer franchise. All right, thanks so much, everyone, for joining me on this one, and I will see you in the next video.